We'll have to
And
give a few minutes for people to join you.
yes, yeah, because it's a little early here, I think. Well, it's right on the nose according to my thing here, but that's okay. We'll just wait for a few minutes and see if anybody joins.
You mean we're not doing things by Jewish Standard Time?
Jewish Standard Time, huh? Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
see,
there's
now
some,
people are joining in.
yeah, no, Dr. Dubravka's joining in.
Yes, hello.
Hi, Dubravka.
Hi,
Hi,
hi, everybody.
hi, Hannah.
Hi, Ashley.
I am not sure that I'll stay all the time because I'd like to go to the other meetings as well. So if I disappear suddenly,
Oh,
That-
that's okay. Are
that's
they
what-
all at the Are they all at the same time?
yeah, there are too many choices.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, Dubravka, what you have to do is put one on your phone, one on your computer, and keep one on silent and flip back and forth so that you decide what you want to participate in.
Hey, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I never thought of that. Yeah, too many good choices. Yeah, there's this one about Israel and then Judaism and stuff. Yeah.
Well, we'll just sit for a couple of more minutes, and then we're going to talk about Jonah, but I called it can you sleep through a hurricane?
Yeah, that sounded a very impressive title. Special talent, yeah.
Yeah.
Staying calm in a storm.
Having lived through true hurricanes as a child, no, you cannot sleep through them.
Well, I can believe that, all right.
But I have a little anecdote, and it wasn't a hurricane, but I came to the States in 1988, and very soon after I came, that very same summer, there was a huge storm. And now I was living in Arkansas, in Fayetteville, Arkansas, which is like northern, in a little pocket, and I had no idea about anything. Anyways, and there was this one night, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and there was the sound of a train passing right above my head, and I was like, whoa, this is interesting. And I turned around to the other side and fell asleep. And then in the morning, it turns out there was a tornado that passed over.
Oh my word!
That was the sound of the tornado. But
Well,
I didn't know at that time. I had no idea what it was. So maybe that's.
It just jumped over you.
Dubravka, when I first came out to the Midwest to visit Harvey, because he was out here and I was still in New York, he went into a class to take a final exam, and I was sitting out in the car reading a book. And he comes out at the end of the time, and I said, oh my goodness, you should have seen it. The clouds started swirling and the sky turned all green. And he goes, you idiot, that was a tornado. So I knew about hurricanes, but not tornadoes.
Well, you missed them both. That's really good.
List, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Growing up with the tornadoes, I got very good at sleeping through these big storms that we have here in the Midwest, but it wasn't until I was a camp counselor that I was no longer a hard sleeper and had to wake up when my campers were trying to sneak out of the cabin. So no longer can I sleep through a hurricane.
Oh, that's good. Well, we've got a few people here. Let's see, Shimon Rule. I don't see a face. I just have the name here. But anyway, I thought we would talk a little bit about the book of, not the whole book. I didn't want to go through that, but would any, what, it's in your Moxor, it's on page 344. If you have your Moxor handy, it's a fairly good translation. There's a couple of things that I think could be improved upon, but anyway,
Oh, there we go.
Jay's there. Jay and Carol are there.
How you
Steve?
doing?
Okay, how are you and Carol doing?
She's doing fine. I'm doing fine.
Good. Okay. Okay. Steve, do you want to start reading a little bit here on it's page 344?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Simone's on.
Jonah, chapter 1.
Yeah.
And the word of Adonai came to Jonah, son of
Right here.
Amittai. Get up, go to the great city of Nineveh and proclaim against it, for their evil deeds have risen up before me. But Jonah got up to flee to Tarshish, away from the presence of Adonai. And he went down to Jaffa and found there was a ship heading for Tarshish. And he paid its fare and went down into it to head with them to Tarshish, away from the presence of Adonai. But Adonai hurled a great wind upon the sea, a storm at sea so great that the ship was in danger of being shattered to pieces. And the sailors were frightened, cried out, each to his own god, and flung the ship's cargo into the sea to lighten their load. But Jonah had gone down into the hold, the lower deck of the vessel, and he lay down and fell into a deep sleep. And the
Okay,
captain
just
okay.
1 second right there. That word that he fell asleep, radam, near dam is the, it's, oh, something happened here. What happened?
Everything's fine.
Oh, there. Oh, I knocked myself off the screen here. You remember in the creation story in Genesis where God found that Adam that he had created didn't have anybody that was really satisfactory. He only had the animals and so forth to name and so forth to work with. And so he put he put Adam into a deep sleep, which was called a tardema. A tardema is when you have a sleep that you are so deeply into it that you just don't wake up right away. That way God could open Jonah's rib cage up, take a rivet out, and close it back up so that so that Adam wouldn't feel the heat, the hurt. And so, in a sense, that's what Jonah's doing here. He's going down into a deep, deep sleep, sort of more like a swoon where you don't wake right up, and not just an ordinary sleep. So anyway, go ahead and keep reading a little bit.
And the captain approached him and said to him, "What are you doing sound asleep? Get up, call to your God. Perhaps the God will be kind to us and we will not perish." And they said, each man to his companion, "Let us cast lots that we might know on whose account this evil event has come to us." So they cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. And they said to him, "Tell us, you who have brought this evil upon us, what is your trade and where have you come from? What is your country and who are your people?" And he said to them, "I am a Hebrew. I rever Adonai, God of heaven, who made sea and dry land." The men felt great fear and they asked him, "What have you done?" Because the men knew he was fleeing from Adonai, so he had told them. And they asked him, "What should we do to you to bring calm to the sea around us?" For the sea was growing more and more stormy. So he said to them, "Lift me up and hurl me into the sea, and the sea will calm down for you. For I know that this great storm came upon you because of me." And the crew rowed hard to return to the dry land. but they could not do it, for the sea was raging more and more fiercely around them. And they called out to Adonai, saying, Please, Adonai, please do not let us perish because of the life of this man, and do not hold us guilty of shedding innocent blood. For you, Adonai, that which you desired, you have brought it about. And they lifted Jonah and hurled him into the sea. Then the sea stopped raging. The men revered Adonai. Great was their reverence. So they offered to Adonai a sacrifice and made vows.
Okay, let's stop right there. That's the place where Jonah goes into the belly of the big fish that that he lives in for a little while. 3 days, you know, is that 3 days, or is that you know, it could have been a longer thing. This it was interesting to me to think about this, you know, because there's so much said about it, you know, and everybody knows the story. But the first thing that that gets my attention here is that the men, once they know that Jonah is the one that has brought this calamity upon them, the first thing they ask him, the sailors now, the first thing they ask him is, what's your occupation? Now that's a very interesting, what do they want to know his occupation for? You know, I mean, you hear all this raging storm, and they're getting to the point where they have to throw the cargo over and so forth and so on. What's your occupation? It's what do you think? It seems to me that they might think that he was some kind of a what would you call it, you know, a person that deals with mystical things.
Sorcerer.
Like a
what?
sorcerer.
Sorcerer, yeah. What? Maybe you're a sorcerer, and you came on here, and you know, you've got something against us, or maybe your God has something against us. You're a sorcerer. What is your occupation? And he has to, you know, and he doesn't respond exactly. He doesn't say exactly what it is, but what do you make of that? Do you think this is a plausibility?
Yeah,
Well,
maybe.
maybe he's a sorcerer, or maybe he's a shipbuilder and they don't want to throw him overboard if he can repair the ship.
Hey, there's hey. Well,
That's a pretty
no,
deep.
that's a good thought too. I like that. Yeah, right.
Linda's always thinking outside the box.
Yeah, thinking outside the boat.
Outside the boat in this case. Yeah, right. Right.
So what about the lots? I'm picturing, are these like who drew the shortest straw, or did they roll the
Yeah.
dice on the floor?
Well, yeah, it doesn't tell us exactly what they are, but thinking in terms of when that expression is used elsewhere in the Tanakh,
yeah,
it usually refers to like dice.
yeah,
You know, things with numbers, or not numbers, but dots on them.
yeah.
And they would have two, or maybe they wouldn't have two. Maybe they just have an aleph and a tav. The aleph would be for arur, which would mean cursed, and the other one would have a tav on it, tova, good. You know, you know, it's either good or it's bad. You know, or maybe it's a combination of both. Or if it's two things, then it's definitely bad, or it's definitely good, or you know, otherwise it's a combination.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting that like their first question is, I mean, if we're using your interpretation, they're asking if he's a sorcerer, but in order to find out who the lots were cast onto,
Uh-huh.
that also feels kind of mystical, right? Like they're leaving it up to these dice or straws or whatever they're doing. Like that in
Yeah.
itself feels like strange, especially assuming that this group of sailors are not Israelites, that they don't follow Adonai already.
Isn't
Oh,
that
that's right,
typical?
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
and it says each one of them had his God. You know, it could be that they were a mixture of people. You know, this was a boat. He goes to Joppa, which was at the time that this was written, was like a seaport, and you know, from there they were shipping things out to other parts of the Mediterranean. You know, and so there was a, you know, these people knew what they were doing. You know, uh, I mean, they had ships, they had sailors that were maybe working for pay, and so forth. So if they had to pay a fee to get on there to go, says to Tarshish, well, he had to pay the whatever the fee was, you know, and then you wonder also when they decided to throw the cargo overboard, did they have some kind of an insurance policy? You know, what would happen if they came back and their boat was empty, and they said, well, we threw it over, you know, oh, sure you did. You went and sold it. Now you brought it back. Yeah, that's a possibility too. I don't know. But in any case, they had to see what their God was going to say, you know, or see if that was a possibility. Maybe
I'm also
maybe
curious as to, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm also curious just that I'm trying to like set the scene in my head. They're all in this ship and it's rocking and there's a massive storm and it's terrifying. And so they decide to find out who's to blame. So then they cast lots, and then they have time for this interview with Jonah.
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong? What did you do? Instead of just trying to find a solution, they have this time amongst this massive storm that's happening.
Right. Well, it seems like the first thing they tried to do is row. They tried to roll back, you know, and that didn't seem to work. You know, the waves were just too high. And it would seem like this ship must have been fairly long, because otherwise it would have tipped over, or it would have, you know, capsized somehow or another. But if they were rowing, there must have been enough of them on both sides so that, you know, when they were rowing, they could, you know, and actually the Hebrew is like they were digging. When you're rowing in Hebrew, you're digging. You know, you're digging the paddles in. Makes sense, doesn't it?
yeah, but
Of
they
course,
didn't
I
start-
think the thing that this shows what Rabbi Bob talked about last night is that sometimes you can work as hard as you want, but it's not going to get you out of the problem. There's more to it than just hard work, because this hard work isn't getting them anyplace.
No, it's not getting them. That's for sure. It doesn't get them anywhere. That's right. So they
And
have
one of
to.
the other things we need to consider here also is this was probably not a motorized boat.
No, of course
It
not.
was a sailboat.
Yeah.
When that wind blows and that sail gets filled, you are fighting against every bit of energy you can possibly imagine. And it sounds like this was not an easy, calm little ride.
Right. That reminds me of an old thing I heard on the radio one time years ago. The sailor goes up to the captain. He says, "Captain, it's the mizzen mast." The captain says, "What about it?" He says, "It's mizzen." Kind of crazy, isn't it? But no, they were trying to do whatever they could. You know, they were rowing, they were throwing the cargo over. Now, one of the things that's peculiar about this particular story is that well, let's see, what goes on next? What is the next thing that happens here?
Well, I think, you know, one of the things, we got a little bit out of order here.
Yeah.
because it was post-interview, okay, and an admission by Jonah
Uh-huh.
that he believed himself responsible.
Yeah,
And
right.
then they tried to regain the shore by rowing.
Uh-huh.
So it's not like they were giving up, or
Right.
giving in to him. They were still trying to save everybody.
Okay, that's right. Even the captain was he was involved in that too, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, and he was saying, you got to get up here and contact your God too, and see what happens. So what is the solution that Jonah comes up with is interesting. What do you think that constitutes? Well, what I think this is that Jonah is saying to the men, you're going to make me a human sacrifice. Throw me into the water and then the raging is going to stop. Well, that's the same thing as saying I'm going to propitiate my God, or and by doing this is my God is going to like it. He's yeah.
Yeah, but he's not trying to make them the bad guys.
Oh no, that's right. Oh yeah, no, you're right about that. Right. Yeah. Oh, the story is it's kind of a strange story. One of the
Yeah, it is.
strangest, I think, in the whole Bible. But
But what is Jonah? I mean, Jonah's running away, and he
Yeah.
doesn't really put any value on his life if he's willing to have these people throw him in the water, knowing he's going to drown and die. He
well,
has no idea that fish is going to come along and save him.
no, that's true.
I mean,
That's true.
he's running. There's something terrible in his life he doesn't want to face.
Well, that's true. And if you when you read the rest of the book, and you get to the very last chapter, he's angry and he says, a couple of times, maybe more, he's angry to death. He says, I just as soon die. When God creates this gourd, that goes over his head and keeps him from the sun.
Right.
He said, oh, that's wonderful. Then God destroys the gourd. Oh, I know I'm going to die. I want to die, and then he's saying, well, I also want to watch the people in the city of Nineveh get burnt, I want to, but instead of that, they repent, the king repents, and everybody puts sackcloth on it. Oh, this is terrible. I should have died, he was kind of a mixed up individual,
Yeah.
I would say.
It seems so. Yeah.
And you think that he would know that he couldn't escape from God by going to Tarshish and by getting on a ship and going to Tarshish.
Right.
He's not going to escape. Or did he think he was going to escape from God?
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know.
Or maybe God wouldn't want to bother. This is out of God's realm or something like that. There were other gods all over the ancient Mediterranean. And so you could have invoked all kinds of gods, Neptune possibly, and so we have a kind of a interesting situation. Okay, well, so in any case, let's focus upon the guys. Then they first empty the cargo, then they start rowing. And then when Jonah tells them to throw me overboard, they finally do so, Then what do they do then? What do the sailors do then?
They made vows, which is really interesting, because now they recognized the power of God that they were facing.
Absolutely. This is, I think that's one of the main thrusts of this, at least this earlier portion of the book of Jonah, they make vows. They didn't have to do that, you know, they didn't have to do anything really, but they did. They were so grateful to Adonai that, you know, here's this God, well, we're gonna, you know, he's really something. You know, and Jonah kind of sets the stage. He says, he's the God who created the world. He created heaven and earth and all of that kind of thing. So maybe they think, well, maybe this God is a little bit more than the God we've been worshiping all of our lives.
Mhm.
So, you know, we're going to, you know, see if we can't do something to get in good graces with Adonai, you know. And they actually, they do that. Then they make vows, and then what else do they do?
They did a sacrifice.
What?
A sacrifice. They did.
They do sacrifices,
I don't know
so
why you
they-
want to start a fire on a wooden boat. It's not a good idea.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, you're right about that. All right. Right, and then so they go out, and then they make sacrifice, they make vows, and so in a sense they're sort of turning their attention towards Adonai. And it's interesting that there was a Jewish writer, a very early Jewish writer. No, I can't remember if I think he was writing in Yiddish around the beginning of the 19th century. His name was Peretz, and he picked up from where this part of the story left off, and he tries to show what these sailors did after they got onto dry land and after they made their sacrifices. Very, very interesting that they got into, they came to Jerusalem. They came to, well, Jerusalem wasn't at this, the way that this is talking, Jerusalem wouldn't have been in existence at that time. But nevertheless, since it's talking about the temple, they go and they do something at the temple. And I've forgotten. I read the story years ago, and I've forgotten what the outcome was with regard to these several sailors. But in any case, it was interesting that they seem to venerate the temple. Now, I don't know if you think that may be what the book of Jonah is all about, or if it was because the second chapter is all about the temple, really. You know, and Jonah saying that he was, you know, he was down in the depths, you know, the mire up to his neck. You know, he had gone down into the subterranean waters that belong to foreign gods and goddesses and so forth. But in any case, it seems to me that these sailors were busy doing something. And so if I think about it, what am I doing? Am I doing anything other than sleeping through the hurricane? If I am not going to do that, then I've got to get out and I've got to do something. I've got to exercise my Judaism and say, well, Judaism stands for change in justice, change in environment, change in a lot of different things. And I've got to get out there and I've got to, you know, really try to do something, you know, rather than just sitting back and, you know, it's just accepting everything that that the Jewish faith does for me. I've got to do something to show that I'm doing it, and I'm doing it because I'm doing it as a Jewish activist. Maybe is that too much to expect? No. Rick, did you have something?
Oh,
I can't hear you.
He's muted.
Oh,
Rick,
are you muted?
Yeah,
Oh,
Rick is
oh,
muted.
well, I guess I can't turn him.
Can you unmute him?
I can't unmute him. Oh, there.
No, we
I
still
still can't
can't
hear.
hear you, Rick.
Rick, maybe you can write into the chat.
What could I do?
no,
Yeah.
you're okay, Ashley. Rick is having microphone issues.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm glad it's not on my side. Usually it's my side. Or usually I can't get in. That's what it is. That's the big thing about me. I can't get in. But I think that there's really something here that encourages us to to try to do something. And there's so much that we could do. There really is. Any suggestions or any comments about that?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of injustices out there. Pick one. Pick one of the many, climate change, injustice to people, children be taken away from their parents and locked up in a cage. There's a number of injustices out there. Just pick one.
You know what? You shouldn't get political about this because that happened during Obama. So you better just not get political about this,
Well, it's not
okay?
in-
This is
well,
not the place for politics.
No, it's not politics, Jay.
When you
it's
say kids
happening.
getting locked up in cages, you're told right from the talking points. I don't want to hear this. This is not the
But
place
isn't
to
it-
talk about.
But isn't that true, though? I mean, weren't children put in cages?
Yeah, during Obama. Obama
And
built the
just-
cages. So let's stop it right here.
Well, I'm just
Well,
saying what
let's-
happened.
That doesn't make it.
Let's talk about some.
We could write.
Yeah.
What's that?
I
Go ahead, Hannah.
So I think that Jonah especially is a great example showing that no matter where you go, there are going to be problems. Jonah tried to run away from these things. And I think it shows also all around the world, like wherever you go, there is going to be something. And Judaism tells us that our actions are supposed to be for the larger community and for the larger world.
Right.
And that even if God reached out to Jonah personally, God is reaching out to all of us all of the time. And no matter where we go and what we're doing, there are always opportunities for us to make positive change in the world around us.
That's true. That's very true. One way we can do that too is support the people of Israel too. What they've been going through a lot of the same things that we've been going through in terms of the coronavirus and so on. But right now they have a real great opportunity because of their treaty with the United Arab Republic, or United Arab Emirates. You've all heard about that, I'm sure, which I think is a very great step forward. And, I think that is something that will probably continue because they've never been at war with each other. So they don't have a peace treaty, but they have a good mutual treaty, whatever you want to call this. And so they can go cautiously, but at the same time, they will, I think, improve the whole climate in the Middle Eastern world, because in order to perfect that, an El Al plane actually was allowed to fly across Saudi Arabia for the first time, and back. So, it's a terrific thing going forward. And so I think that we can talk about the good things that are happening right now at the same time that we can get involved and do what we can to encourage that and support that. you know.
So this whole piece about Jonah going down into the belly of the fish, I know we haven't
Right.
read that part yet, but is this really, I mean, to me, it seems like a story that Jonah's taken a journey inward into himself,
Yeah, yeah.
find God himself.
Well, okay. All right.
I guess that's how I would look at it. You know, it's a way for him to discover God. Even though
Well,
God didn't come to him, but you know, him going down into the deep is he's reflecting into himself. He's meditating on himself.
okay.
I guess that's how I interpret that.
Well, that's a good way to look at things. Uh-huh. And
I really
he's,
like that because I think a big piece of the world that we're living in now is educating ourselves.
yeah,
And I talked about this a little bit in the last session with Uli about how important it is right now where we have this opportunity to kind of step back, or
right.
we're kind of forced to step back in a way from the world.
Yeah.
And that there are so many resources for us right now
Oh, yeah.
to push ourselves to think in ways that we have not thought before. And
This is true.
how vital that is. I mean, speaking, I don't, thank you, Jay, I don't want to get into politics, but I've been living in Jerusalem for the last 3 years, and how thinking about how differently Israelis on the ground have responded to this new development in Middle Eastern politics. And I think we are given this blessing right now to really dive in deeper and search out these different perspectives, so we can get the whole picture.
Well, do the Israelis basically go along with this?
It depends who you talk to. There have been very massive protests in the last few months. I'm happy to talk about at another time, or send out other resources for people.
You know, one of the things to think about in this whole thing is God, right there in that minute, without the big fish, that would have been the end of Jonah. But God wanted him to have some time to contemplate, so that he could become a better person and then figure out what he really has to do. Otherwise, he could have just killed him right there and it'd be done. But he gave him 3 days for contemplation, whether he liked it or not, you know. And so I think that was God's way of, you know, trying to save him and bring him back into the realm where he should have been in the first place.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that really, that is sort of like the gist of chapter 2, isn't it? He's saying that when he's saying that he was sinking down into he felt like he was sinking down into the waters, and the waters were coming up to his neck, his nephesh. His nephesh is a very elusive word in Hebrew. It can mean all kinds of different things. In that case, I think it does mean his neck, but it also talks about what we call spirit or soul sometimes. Sometimes it can refer to the whole body, the whole mind and body complex together, nephesh. And so in that sense, the whole of Jonah is being exposed to this traumatic experience with God, and he has to think things through. And you know, if you feel like you're going to sink down, well, who's down below there? Well, Neptune is down below there. All kinds of other deities, you know, from other smaller groups are down underneath down there too. Tiamat is down there. Mesopotamian god, you know, goddess, I should say. And so you've got all this stuff going on at once, and Jonah's got to think through all of this. And when he does, he comes up, I'm really, what I really want to do is I want to get back into a relationship with God after I've gone through all this soul searching. Do you think that might be true? What do you think?
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Is it foreshadowing of the soul searching that the people of Nineveh have to go through?
Oh,
And
I think so. Yeah, I
don't
think
it
that
make
would be
this-
true.
But deep inside, I sit here and wonder, well, what did God really need Jonah for? God could have done this in 100 different ways. He really
Very
needed
true.
Jonah.
That's right.
I guess when you think back through, if you take a look at the history of the Tanakh, from Abraham down to the present time, God doesn't come into direct intervention that often. It's usually through some actor, some other person, like Moses or Abraham or Isaac or whatever. It's or even a prophet. Usually, once in a while, it'll just come right out and say, well, for example, the story of Tamar and Judah, the story in Genesis, where it kind of interrupts the Joseph story, and in Tamar and Judah, that story there, which is really I think it's in the story there because it's to talk about the Yabama, the requirement for if a married individual dies without leaving any heirs, his brother is supposed to come in and marry the widow and bring up offspring in the decedent's name, so his name doesn't go outside the community and his inheritance doesn't get wiped out because it's incorporated into somebody else's inheritance. That's all to the good. But what it says is, it says, well, the first husband died. I can't remember why. The second one, and the second one goes into to function with this Yabama. So he goes and he has sexual intercourse with the widow, but instead of inseminating her, he pulls his penis out and drops it on the ground. Well, that incensed Adonai, and so Adonai kills him. It says simply that Adonai kills him. Well, that doesn't happen all that often. thank goodness. Right.
I think,
Well,
sorry, you're finishing your thought.
No, go ahead.
I'm thinking that, so you asked this question, like, why did God need Jonah? I think time and time again in the Tanakh, we're given heroes, we're given protagonists who are so painfully human, right?
Oh.
People who are so flawed. And it's supposed to give us these people as an example to show that, like, God wants us in all of our imperfections, and out in the world we can still, it's not that we can still make change, is that we are the ones who have to do it. Like, God can't just like reach their hand in and change things, but us in all of our flaws and our imperfections, like we are the ones given the task to make our world more whole.
Repair
See,
them.
Right. It's like Samson, Samson was very flawed.
Yes. Moses even. I mean, Moses, like Moses,
yes.
when God chooses Moses asked, like, who am I to do this work? And I think we ask ourselves those questions a lot too, especially with like how daunting the world is right now. But we are exactly those people who should be doing the work.
Yeah, even Noah. Noah was supposedly some kind of alcoholic and stuff, and then God still picked him to be really like Abraham, because everybody has to be from Noah after the flood. Okay, so that's amazing. But I think it seems like, even though people talk like the wrath of God, okay, God seems to want to be able, it means more for somebody who seems against God to come back to God. So that seems to be more what God is trying to do most of the time. You know, you hear about all these things, but they seem to turn around.
And isn't that what this whole time
Yeah,
period is
yeah.
that we're living, Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, it's a coming back,
Yeah.
returning to
Well, you know,
looking at ourselves
Uh-huh.
and looking at how we've lived our life this past year. And sometimes that's not an easy thing to do because we don't like ourselves.
well, you're right. But, you know, an interesting example of that is, you remember the story about Korach? He was leading a rebellion, and the earth opens up, and he and his followers all fall into the hole, and the hole closes up. Okay, so but interestingly enough, Korach's the Korathites were you know, much later in history, during the exile and the post-exilic age, they were temple singers, and they were like the choir, and so they have left, maybe I think it's 3 or 4 of the Psalms in the collection of Psalms are by the Korathites. Korachite, how do you say that? So you know, so that there is this kind of forgiveness that is coming along, and so I think that's very interesting. So anyhow,
So in the service this morning, Rabbi was mentioning how the Kadosh.
Mentioning what?
Kadosh. In the
I can't
service
hear.
this morning,
The Kadosh?
yeah, the rabbi was
Oh.
talking about how the Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh was supposed to be
Yeah.
like the angels singing to the people and the
Uh-huh.
people then responding.
Yeah. Well, that was when Isaiah was in the temple, and he was it was like the call of Isaiah. He was witnessing all of this. He was hearing the Kadosh, the trisagion, they call it. Yeah. So that was it. So anyway, well, let's see. Am I invading somebody else's time here? I think I might need to get off here, don't I? There's going to be in a few minutes. There's going to be a family service, and then so I guess I should probably get off of here, and then.
Probably why Cody showed his face, right?
Yeah.
You guys didn't want to see my face, so yeah.
Right. Well, I'm glad you joined us, Cody. It was nice to have you here. Because you do a lot already. Right. So anyway, I think I'll get off now, and then I'm going to come back at 2:30 for current events with Mary Hasten and Rick, because they've got some very interesting things that I think they've been working on, you know, in this area here. And so there may be things that we could do to help them, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I think I'll take my leave, and everybody else,
Right.
you know, we'll see you later on.
Shana Tova.
Thank you. Shana Tova.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Great
Ashley.
as always, Ashley.
Thank
Thanks.
you, Ashley. Shana
You're
Tova.
welcome.